change a charter, so the money that, the proceeds that we get from that, we could use to operate, because that's really much more useful to us. But again, what we're asking for is what the law provides us, and that's a tax increase or an income tax. And there was an income tax prior to my starting here. It was in 2006.
Yep.
And it went down in flames.
Part of it is the communication and trying to get people to understand that, hey, we have made these cuts, the need is really there, and then to try to communicate what an earned income tax is and what that means and how it's different. Just adds a whole other layer to that communication. That's part of the difficulty.
So when you speak about community, you're absolutely right. And when we talk about that, you know, in general, $100,000 home, $16.77 a month, we're talking about that from all of the homeowners, and it includes businesses too. An income tax, businesses don't pay anything. So, you know, you have a high rate of commercial industrial in your community, you have a real estate tax because they ante up for that. What we like you to think of or to put into perspective is you've heard the girls talk about extracurricular activities, and we all know that if we're keeping our kids productive after the school day, our crime within the community is down, and we have a safer community. That's one good thing. $16.77 per month versus nearly $1,000 to pay to participate. It's probably easier to afford. And so, you know, it's a perspective thing and a way to put things into perspective. Again, it's not the be-all, end-all. It's only going to stake the deficit out further. Both a renewal levy that's coming due and this new levy are modeled in the forecast. They're a part of our decisions that we're doing, and we just keep chipping away. You see 2 pages there where we're chipping away. Another chip will be if it shouldn't pass, and then in the spring there will be more. What I'd like everybody to think about is we have control about stopping the cuts by passing the levy. Yes.
With what you've seen with all the other districts in Ohio also, when you talk about the earned income tax and versus real estate tax, would you not agree that the tax base is much, much broader when it's applied to real estate tax and to real property than it is to earned income? Because all the income earners in Stow and in Low Falls would get hit with the tax. So anybody who owned a nice big house and wasn't working, they wouldn't pay any tax. And I think you'd have a much smaller base of people paying for the schools than you would if it was real estate tax.
Well, if you do the math, I think we just saw something recently that said the average income was $38,000. 1% of that is $380. If you're a $100,000 homeowner, you're going to pay $200. So, you know, when people do that math, they say no. No on that one. They would be, and it's cheaper because it's spread around.
And businesses do carry some of the burden. You want new businesses, you want to see new building construction. Those are all positive signs in these communities. Every time you see a new building go up, yes, that's a great thing.
And then looking at some of the statistics too, I think it's really compelling how this community has done, at least for Stow. Total values, assessed values were in 2002, $785 million. As of 2008, 2009, it was up to $996 million. The tax rate in total for that 2002, 2003 in total was 48.32 mils. In 2008, 2009 was 45.25. Because your value increases and the way schools are funded and most of your taxes come to the schools. As your your value increases, what we get doesn't. So if the community grows and your value grows, the county's collecting the same dollar amount, it's just less per person because there's more people adding into it. So it's really important to think about that, because in terms of that $16.77 for that $100,000 homeowner, most people's value decreased for 2011 because we went through year reappraisal. You may not get hit totally for that 6.5 mils because your value decreased. So it could end up netting out to be less per month. Again, and to look at education as a value is also another way to approach this. As Linda stated, it is a value judgment. And again, I know that there are circumstances, I know that there are seniors on a fixed income and they have medication to pay for, and we can't tell you to vote yes. You have to vote your circumstances. What we want you to know are what the reasons are we need the money, the value that your community can get in return, not just the parents and not just our students. There is a whole community value here. And you, as long as you're educated and informed and you go into that voting booth, you have to do what you have to do.
Catherine, one thing you noted there, I can only assume that that's not the first time you've answered that question. A lot of these. Very similar answers, right? Obviously, that's why we're doing community meetings and getting people information. Would it not make sense that you have a website to actually put these thoughts on paper and explain to people, the reason why we're not doing the income tax is this. The reason why we're not doing this is this. I mean, to me, that makes sense, especially if you already have the SOS button on the website.
That's a great point.
Throw it up there, and now nobody has an excuse. Just point them to the website.
That's a great point, and we are always open for suggestions, and we do appreciate that. That's a great idea. Thank you.
You have a 2-year contract in place. Previous to that, there was a 3-year plus, maybe if you had enough money, there was a 4-year. Right, which again, that, you know, this board does not have to worry about negotiating up until this year, really. But the 2-year now, is that because, you know, the future is not set in stone?
It was because at the time that we negotiated, the May forecast was published, and in order to enter into a contract, we have to be able to certify that the funds are available. And we couldn't go beyond 2 years, even with a 0% and no step increases. So
Now, the other thing that I guess I was just blown away when this gentleman said that at the last board meeting, you had mentioned about going into receivership, basically, or what is it that you're saying that could happen in 2000?
emergency. The state could deem us in
So
fiscal
like Cleveland or like Springfield, or I mean,
like Venture. Yeah. In our
I mean, you're
community, we've had, in our community, but in our region, we've had Coventry school systems, Springfield school systems. And if you ever want to see what happens to a great community after your largest employer, we are one of Stow and Munroe Falls' largest employers, downsizes.
Largest employer, largest transportation department, largest food service.
How many employees are actually residents of Stow? What percentage of the school's employees actually live here? It's pretty high.
65, 70%.
But what happens is the way that the cities run their services is by income taxes for people who
From employers.
work here. Everybody pays an income tax 2%. And so what happens when we lose these employees from the schools, which is our biggest employer, it affects everybody's services in the city of Stow. Because we have, you know, we right now are hit by the recession, the city of Stow, and Munroe Falls, and also because of state cuts, and to lose, you have fewer people paying income taxes into your city, it makes it doubly hard to provide the services that we want to provide for our residents. Police, fire, snowplow, fixing the streets and all that.
Maybe newcomer.
Now,
Yeah.
what about the held harmless? What's going to happen to that? Are we going to be obligated to do that still? Are we going to be able to do that still for businesses to come in and we don't charge them?
Well, the held harmless is tangible personal property with businesses pay taxes on machinery, equipment, and inventory. That got phased out as
Okay.
of
That's
'10. No
fine.
businesses
That's
paid
fine.
that
Okay.
law.
Well, that's
And
good.
the state was holding us harmless because what they did in return, and keep in mind the tangible personal property tax has historically always come into the school system. Now that's gone. So the state rendered a tax on businesses called a commercial activity tax, or also known as a CAT tax, and they charge businesses according to the sales that they have. And that goes into the state coffers. With that money, the state held us harmless. As the business phased out of paying it, the state kept us whole. Well, after '10, the state started to phase that out of us. That's also projected in the forecast, but we are looking at, there has not been any positive discussion from the legislature that they would keep us held harmless. So taxes that we had always received from businesses, the state has essentially taken away from us. Question?
How does our community compare with other communities in the area as far as millage and rates? Are we
We are one of the lowest.
So I guess my statement would be, where are you gonna go? And to try to get away from this, or you have to send your kids to private school, which is a lot more than this.
I can throw a couple figures out. This is on the SOS button, if you want to take a look at it. We compare all the Summit County districts. Our per pupil cost in Summit County is the 4th lowest. Our administrative cost is 2nd lowest in Summit County. The only school district in Summit County that spends less per pupil per student on administrators is Norton. That's the only one. And we also have the 4th lowest per pupil expenditure, total cost per pupil.
We're one of the biggest school systems.
Yeah, and we're the 2nd largest.
So we can save a lot of money for a lot of time.
Huge.
My biggest question I have is, in 2008, the levy failed. By the same percentage, it just failed in August, 64%. How are we over the next 40 days going to get these people on this levy, to pass this levy? What is our strategy to get to this? All we got to do is get 10, 12% to sway to the other side. How do we approach those people? Because you know, in most levies, you're going to have these people who are always going to vote no, because of one always going to vote yes. How are we going to get them this time? Obviously, we weren't successful in August, so how are we going to go after it? And what's the strategy? And I guess, what's our plan? How are we going to get these people? I mean, I'm kind of disappointed that we're not seeing 38 people in this room.
Yeah.
You know, and this has been in past, it's been in so century.
Trying to get people here.
Stow.
Well, one of the things this time, I hear a lot more people talking about it, and part of the reason is a lot of the parents are more involved, or more engaged. A lot of parents seriously don't vote. You look at in August, there were like 2,000 yes votes. There are, how many kids at that high school?
300 altogether, so you're looking at,
You know, we have 5,000 kids in the school system, 2,000 people voted yes. You know that a lot of the parents were not really voting, they weren't really engaged, but I think this time they are, because they see now the schools have reached that this is the end. I mean, we've got to make more cuts that are going to really impact families, and to me, impact the community as a whole, which, you know, concerns me. But I think the word is out there a lot more because people realize that their kids, you know, will not be bused, and that impacts them, or their kids will maybe not be able to do some of the sports or play, you know, or be in some of the different clubs, so, and no field trips and all that type of thing. And so I think that people are more engaged this time because the schools themselves have said, this is the end. That's why what it is Save Our Schools. That's the slogan this time, SOS, we need help, this is serious. And I'm hoping that, and I have heard a lot more about it. I was at 2 meetings yesterday, and both of them, what they got on was about the schools. And before, you didn't hear that talk, I mean, at least I didn't, in just regular meetings, everyday meetings. You hear it a lot more. There's a lot of students who want to talk. I mean, you know, we've gotten people who are emailing us all the time, they want to volunteer for this campaign. That hasn't happened before. So there's a lot more engagement on a number of residents, particularly, I would say, the parents this time. But what we're also doing is there's going to be some mailers, there's going to be ads in the newspaper, there's going to be ribbons tied around throughout the community, which is showing support. We're going to do signs, but this election, there's going to be signs all over Stow and Munroe Falls for the mayor, for council, for, you know, all that kind of school board members. So that's why we went to, you know, putting out ribbons to show support. There's going to be a rally. There's going to be a lot more visible things. I don't know if that's what you meant,
Right,
Fred,
one
but.
thing we do know is that, and I know that we keep hearing us put the emphasis on the parents. One thing we do know is if all of our parents went to the polls and supported us, we would pass a levy
Yes.
down. So we do, you know, school is back in session. In August it wasn't. We're hoping that the parents will engage, where we have these community meetings. We're doing meetings in the mornings. We're trying to get the word out as much as
There's
possible.
also meetings at everything, that's every event. We've gone to Rotary and Lions and Kiwanis, Orchestra, band, everything. I mean, every possible place to go. So if you know of anybody who needs a speaker, you know, let us know, and they'll come. Sure.
It upset me, which that's good, everybody has a side and word should get out, but I have to say this, my best friend's daughter came home from high school in tears. Whoever came in her class, I won't do specifics, it's not up to that, but I'm asking the school board, please talk to the school. Our children are 16, they're emotional, they have them scared to death. I mean, whatever the outcome, that they're learning to be adults, you have to take the good with the bad, and you have to learn to pick yourself up if it doesn't go your way. And I would love to at least know that we're teaching our children that as good educators. Don't tell them the world's going to fall apart if this doesn't pass. And I would ask that, because we've found things and we've picked ourselves up, and we just open another door. One door closes, another door opens. So where it is important, and you want them to understand the issue, I don't want them scared tactics. I think that's wrong.
I did address the high school faculty this past Monday, actually, and that question came up. Are we allowed to talk to the students about this?
All right.
And my reaction was, well, I would not be promoting the levy and proselytizing about the levy all the time, but I said, if they ask you your opinion or ask you questions about the levy, by all means, you are able to share the facts with them. Just like if kids ask a teacher, what religion are you? The teacher's allowed to respond and tell them what their belief is, as long as they're not promoting their religion. Now, also, in school law, it will tell you that teachers have freedom of speech rights, but they are somewhat limited. However, when there's an issue that has prime significance in a community, they have a little more latitude. So they are allowed to talk about it, but yeah, we certainly don't want to scare kids. Absolutely not. We just want to put the facts on the table if they ask, or that becomes part of the conversation. And age appropriateness is something which I pay attention to.
Well, I'm thinking of the 18-year-old girls.
Sure.
Stay back, keep the emotion out of it.
Yes.
Another group we should go to target are those who just turned 18 and have still out of high school. They're getting impacted and they're 18 years old.
And we are the video of the last time.
Yeah, and every senior, every senior takes government, they know what it is. They're struggling.
Girls, we are so proud of you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually have a question about the school fund. Sorry. Now, obviously, there's funding for each class, but this is a question I've always wanted answered. Now, when I hear about class cuts, I'm always hearing about these classes that are like, oh, I'm so upset this class is going to be cut. You know, obviously, we've been the Japanese club and the Japanese class alive since Mrs. Munroe retired. She was a great teacher. But this has always been a question for me. Now, we have our regular classes and our EP classes, but I don't understand why there are 3 English levels. I mean, English is English. Obviously, once you get to high school, you should know how to read right now. But we're teaching grammar, reading books, and we're writing papers. So I don't understand why there's basic English, enriched English, and AP English. Now, I'm in AP English. I have been for the past 3 years. Freshman year, I was in CP English, which I love. I'm pretty much like classes was easy for me. But then I thought, wow, what's basic English like? And everyone says, well, basic English is a class where everyone sleeps. And so I don't understand why there are 3 English levels.
Well, there are different levels of English, precisely why when you're in CP English and it makes you fall asleep, we want to challenge it. So we want to make sure that we are taking consideration of the ability and talents of every student and trying to stretch them and try to make it as rigorous as we can for them. Now, some students just aren't going to perform in an AP English class. They just aren't. You know, whether it's nobody's fault, but it is. Yeah, so we want to make sure that our goal is to get them in a class that's stretching them and challenging them, but not so far that it's impossible. As far as what classes are offered, it's all based on student enrollment. You know, when you guys sign up for classes like in February, that runs the show. Because Ms. Schur sits down and looks at, you know, we know in English, if there's 450 kids in the class, they're all taking English, it's required. Divided by 25, that's the number of classes you got. Now, when it gets into some of the electives, forensics, or EP English, or whatever, then we have to look at how big is the student enrollment. If there's 3 kids, probably not going to offer it. But if there's 20, 22, we're going to offer it. Now, let's take AP biology, for example. And I've got hit with this question before. Why are you having all the AP classes? Well, biology. I've got one teacher who can teach 6 classes, and they've got 25 kids in the class, and you can do the numbers, and one of those is an AP class. Well, why do we need that? Let's throw that out, and it'll be cheaper, right? No, those 25 kids have to go to take a biology class somewhere, so they're going to be in regular biology. Somebody's got to teach them, and that teacher's going to end up doing it. So you cut that teacher back down, you cut one of that teacher's classes out, and they can go teach earth science. That's fine. Still haven't saved any money. You'd have to eliminate 6 of those to eliminate 1 teacher. Now, you want to eliminate 6 AP classes to eliminate 1 teacher at the expense of our students? I don't.
Chris, I'm also a senior in Munroe High School.
And Buckeye.
All right.
Yeah. My question, or more comment, is if the levy does pass, and I know we have a lot of comebacks if it doesn't, but from what I've heard, if it does pass, we're bringing back all these systems such as busing to high school and things such as that. What are some of the things will we do to keep spending down even after the levy, such as busing, when the system is right now is going fine?
Great question.
That is a good question. The only thing we're going to bring back would be high school busing with neighborhood cluster stops. So Transportation Director John Davis back there, in case there's any questions, but the plan is to kind of survey students and parents and say, if you know you could have high school busing, do you want to do it? Because we certainly don't want to send buses to neighborhoods and only 2 kids want to use that service, and we're but if we have a neighborhood that has a lot of kids who want to use it, then we'll figure out where they live by satellite. You can tell where you live, We can figure out where a couple stops make some sense. And all we'll be doing is extending some drivers' routes that'll cost us some dollars, but it's not like we're bringing, be hiring a bunch of bus drivers. And it'll provide that service for our students and alleviate a real inconvenience for our parents that have to drive. Other than that, it's just maintaining what we currently have. That's it. That's
But
what we're.
one of the things we did do was cut our cost for our labor, which is 85% of our budget, by getting all the employees for 2 years to take a reprieve on any extra money. So, and they are also contributing more for their health care. So in a sense, everybody did take a cut because they're not getting any more money and they're paying more for their health care. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Along the same lines of that question, we're signing up for a 10-year levy. How do we know 5 years down the road we're not going to be in the same spot? We're going to have, risk busing again. I mean, it seems, I don't know, how do we know there's going to be guarantees that we're not going to be facing the same situation,
Well,
the same possible cuts?
There aren't any guarantees. The state does a 2-year biennium budget. Karen and Frank know about this. They require us to project 5 years out, but they only tell us what they're going to do for 2 years. So it's the 5-year forecast. I feel for her sometimes because it's a crapshoot, and then we get legitimate questions like this. How do we know? The answer is we really don't. We can't. We can predict what we think based on historical trends, but who knows? I mean, the current governor has proposed some drastic changes in how we do things. He's going to come out with a new funding formula. Who knows what that's going to look like? We can only operate on what we've known in the past and go from there. So it's a legit question. I wish I had a...
It's very legit, and the most important part of the answer is that the 6.5 mils we're asking for, we knew from our current projections that was not going to be enough. We had to make a decision as a board. We continued to cut to also lower that amount, but we had to make a decision as a board and management, what is the most we could ask for but have it pass. We were looking at, it was double digits for like 12 to 15 mil levy. So we know 6.5 mils is not going to do it, but it's going to help stave off that deficit, and we will continue to hold our costs down as much as we can. Our employees do understand what's going on in the economy, and they are very amenable to working with us. So that's a positive as well. But it's really important to understand, again, if it passes this year, we begin collections in January. If it doesn't, and it doesn't pass until 2012, we don't collect till 2013. By the time we have to ask next spring, 6.5 mils will be off the table. We'll have to ask more because now we've foregone a whole year of $6.5 million. So, the advantage to a passing note also is to keep it down. Yes.
You mentioned the freeze that the employees have given up, or the pay.
Yes.
Have they given it up, or are they just agreeing?
No, they've given it up. They've signed a contract. They are not getting any, they're getting 0 on their base and no step increases. And I can tell you in the history of any school district I've worked with, this is my 3rd, but I've been in this business for 25 years. That's unprecedented.
Okay, but they've given it up totally.
So, gone for 2 years.
Okay.
And it's even set in place that when we negotiate the next contract, they aren't going to make up for that longevity or those years in seniority either.
There will be no retroactive.
Right.
No.
What dollar amount?
My other
would you
question
say-
is on the busing.
What dollar amount have by the teachers in the classified Aiken's guys, which is fantastic that they did. What is the total dollar amount that the district's going to save
Well,
over this 2-year period?
if you look at what on average, actually as far back as I could go, they've always received a 3% on the base. That's $1 million cost every year. So for 2 years, that's $2 million. And then the longevity steps is probably another $2 million. And then on healthcare, it's another $1.2 million.
But it's even more than 2 million, because if all the employees get a 2.95% or 3%, it's $1 million in the first year. Now, the second year, we start out at that level, so that's 2 million, 1.2, that we wouldn't have paid, plus they get another. So it's 3 million, just with the basic.
Right, I think some of these are the things that, the communication to the public, they just don't understand.
Those are,
I'm confused, I'm like, how do we get people to?
this is what's got to get out in the next 40 days. What do the teachers give up dollar-wise?
It is huge, but at the same time, we want to be careful because it's their dignity too. I mean, you know, people will take that.
What does dignity have to do? I took an 8% pay cut at work.
Yeah, I was gonna say, everybody
So,
else is taking.
That's irrelevant.
But you didn't read about it in the paper, I mean, it wasn't in the paper that.
I'd be proud of that as a teacher to let people know that I did that. I would think they would be proud of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
They sacrificed already.
And
for us.
remember, they're part of that community, they're what, 65%, they live here. So they gave back too, just like all of us. That's a good
Good stuff.
Yeah, I think they should be public.
I do too.
You gotta get this stuff out, that's what helps sway those people. They didn't give up, and all these millions of dollars we say.
They're
It's
not
not good.
overpaid, underpaid,
It is.
underworked.
All I hear is, you know, for the kids, for the kids, for the kids. But when you hear that the teachers did that and took the sacrifice,
Right.
that's a major positive.
And that's
But
what
you don't hear that.
gave this fees now too, because that teacher probably has kids in the school, so they took a pay decrease, they paid more for health insurance, now they're pay to participate, you know, and they're probably having to figure out how to get their kids to the high school, right? I mean, that's all part of being there, and they may be not a two-earner family, they might be a single-parent family.
There's a big difference between a cost avoidance that you're talking about, 3% they gave up, versus the cost reduction. They actually took the cost reduction. We use the cost avoidance numbers to help sell the story, but it's the cost reduction with giving up the steps and giving up, you know, going into medical, giving up 10, 50%. That's a positive story these teachers hear, and I think that's gotta get out. You know, sell, just so positive,
You
and
know
that's a
what,
big
we'll
positive.
talk with our unions and see if they'll, work up the press on this. I think it really is more powerful coming from that.
It is.
Look what we did, we gave back to our community. That's how important this is to the success of our students here.
A few more questions, actually.
Oh, okay.
On the busing, because we talked about the busing, and the student made a good point. How many drivers were cut when you took away the high school busing?
15.
15? How many have been brought back?
How many have been brought back? I had, had 3 retirements since the year began already, so 3 to 15.
So 3 come back, but they're
That's zero.
not back.
Oh, yeah.
That's
We're
zero,
still-
3 people
That-
left.
Did we sell those buses that weren't needed, or what did we?
Yeah, we have sold- we sold those
some
buses.
not needed.
4 of our transits and 1 as we conventional with the engines in the front. So we've sold the buses that are older in the fleet and haven't been used on a regular basis.
John, how many students will be affected if the cuts, the November 14th cuts are made?
To 2 miles,
Yeah.
approximately 1,600 more students will be without a bus.
And that affects, you might want to discuss that too, what schools that affects, the Holy Family?
It affects all of them. Some more than others.
It doesn't affect Holy Family, they will not test Holy Family unless they're 2 miles away or more too.
Right.
That's correct.
It's 2 miles from the whole school.
If you are, if I could real quick,
Please.
there's 2 formulas for busing. If you attend a private school outside of our city limits, okay, there's 1 formula. If you attend a private school, Holy Family, Cornerstone, inside the Stow city limits, it falls into the same jurisdiction as that's your public school, okay? So there's 2 formulas for it. But approximately 1,600 more students will be without bus service.
When you cut the busing, we have a question. So when you cut it, when the busing was cut, though, from what we understand though, by anything wrong, they still get paid for it though. So they're confused about that. They get paid 2 hours. I mean, is that?
You're talking about their general contract. Their general employment contract is, they get, if they work an hour and 50 minutes or an hour and a half in the AM route, there are 2 parts, AM, PM, they get 2-hour guarantee. Okay, or 2 hours guaranteed, or time worked if it's over 2, 2.5, something, or 2.5. But once you're released and your route has been cut, you have no ties. You are rifted, or you bump somebody and the low man on the totem pole goes into a rift status. Nobody's paid.
So you don't not
They're
get.
confused, or they won't be having to save money. And
No,
that makes sense.
we
No,
did
that's
say.
Well, if you work an hour, you still get paid for 2 hours.
Well, what we did with our contract also is we inserted language, or we got them to agree to language that if that were to occur, we can have them go empty trash, weed eat, or do whatever. So we're working them and not having to bring someone else in to do those responsibilities. That was a huge concession that the union took as well. Because prior to that, you had to cross labor. You can't cross labor lines. Because a cook can't empty the trash because that's a custodial job. So we've been able to erase that. So as far as future savings, those kind of negotiated contract language changes, and we did make quite a few that were financial, that will save us as we go into the future. So your board and your administration has worked very hard for this community to keep our costs down and to keep them down in the future.
Gentlemen in the blue sweater.
Before we have to adjourn, is there anyone here that needs voter registration cards? We did bring some tonight. If you need them.
This gentleman in there.
Are they going to the high school? Did you have 18-year-olds
Yes,
registered?
yes, they are.
We were gonna end about 8:30, if there's, any other questions, we'll, take 1 or 2, but, I think
I don't have a question, but we were around in 2006 when that levy passed, and the difference I saw was a lot of kind of grassroots stuff. There were, like, the PTAs organized neighborhood walks to inform everybody. There were, like, elderly people in the neighborhood that we took to the voting polls, that kind of stuff. It wasn't, it was just more, I think the PTAs kind of got all together in the elementary schools and kind of spread out to the community. We did a lot more grassroots stuff instead of just, here's a levy, go vote on it. I think we kind of, we literally picked up neighbors, we drove them, we babysat kids so they could vote.
Yeah, they're doing it.
The teachers were a lot of involved too. They did a lot of neighborhood organizing where they would do a walk through the neighborhood.
Yeah, a number of the PTAs or the groups at schools are making signs, and they're gonna put those out.
Well, this wasn't just signs, this was actual giant groups of people walking.
Yeah, we're
through the
also
neighborhood.
gonna be walking in.
Right, I mean, there was a lot of people out
To pass out the information.
there. I mean, that's the difference I see with the levies that have been failing.
We are looking for volunteers to do
Yeah, so
that.
anybody wants to volunteer?
Please give us your name and phone
Yeah,
number.
because
email
we are
to
using a
Richard.
lot of volunteers.
Yes, we need a lot of volunteers, so we're gonna get this out in 40 days, like you said, and if be successful, we need to all pitch in and get this behind us.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming, I really appreciate it. I wish there had been 5 times as many people, but.
Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you